Hello again, it's Judy here from HotPatterns with one of our gorgeous new patterns and also some very useful tutorials for you. This is the piece in question, not a garment, bag. This is the Handbag Heaven Wong-Singh-Jones Perfecto Satchel. We've called it Perfecto because, well, it is kind of perfect. And this is actually our prototype. This is the first one we've ever done of these. But we thought it'd be useful for you to see how it goes together and how it works. Now, I should point out to you a number of things. First of all, as I said, this is a prototype, so we didn't actually interface this one. But in retrospect, we should have done because it's a little bit too slouchy, and I've just kind of stuffed it out with a couple of pieces of fabric so you see the actual proper shape of it. But the top and bottom of it is this. It's a fabulous bag. It's really gorgeous. It's very, very on trend. And this is kind of a version of 3 or 4 bags I've seen by a few top designers. Celine, Marnie, Dries, of course, and I believe there's a Michael Kors one. Michael Kors, of course, his accessory line isn't high end, but they're all pretty expensive. The average price is probably about $1,200 for a bag, I know. So really, I wanted to do something that was very, very classy and very, very elegant, and this is it. Now, there's a few things to bear in mind when you look at our bag patterns. And a few things that we always try and keep in mind, and I thought it was worth me telling you about them so you understand why we do the things we do when it comes to bags. First off, your bag has to look good, obviously. It has to be visually appealing, but it also has to be useful. So we always put pockets and things inside so you can keep your cell phone and your purse and this, that and the other. But the other thing that's really, really important and that is really worth bearing in mind is this. Most of the bag patterns that you see out and about, well, there are some really gorgeous ones, I have to say. People like Amy Butler do beautiful bag patterns, and even the Big Four do some lovely, lovely shapes. But the bulk of the sewing patterns you'll find out there for bags are really for kind of tote bags. Tote bags made out of quilting cotton. And they're fine as far as they go. Nothing wrong with that. But when it comes to, you know, something to wear to the office, something to wear out in the evening, something to wear for kind of normal life, a quilting tote bag is just not going to cut it. So we always look, when we're looking for our bags, for something that's a little bit more kind of glamorous and a little bit more elegant. And the other thing to bear in mind is this. When you're making a bag at home, you do not want it to look all kind of homemade. And one of the reasons that they often do look homemade is that it's very difficult for us as home sewers to get the proper handbag hardware. By which I mean, you know, turn locks, kind of metal corners and all that kind of stuff. They're really quite hard to get in some places. So we like to choose styles where you don't actually need those things. What you'll probably need is a zipper for the inside pocket, maybe a magnetic strap, some purse feet. All of these things you can find very, very easily. So when we choose the styles we choose them very, very carefully to make sure that you can achieve a really professional high-end result at home. You shouldn't need special equipment, special machinery, special bits and pieces, just your fabric, your interface and your machine, and off you go. So we've got basically a 2-part tutorial for you. This one, the one straight after this, is the lining tutorial, and then there's a separate clip with the actual bag construction. You'd be amazed at how easy it is to construct this bag. I love it. This particular fabric is one of my all-time favourites. It's a faux leather, a metallic pewter with a mock croc embossed, and it's from fabric.com. Now we're filming this early February, and I know they've still got some in stock in the pewter and an antique gold and I think bronze, all beautiful. It cuts like a dream, it sews like a dream. It's a really, really good faux leather to play with, and if it's the first time you've done a bag in a faux leather, get some of this. It's not expensive and it looks great. So that's it really. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you find it useful. I'm pretty sure you will, and once you've done so, I suggest you rush off and make one because it'll look fabulous. So we're going to start with the lining for the satchel, and I've kind of laid it out roughly here, and incidentally I must point out that we've got the fan going because it's really hot in here today, so if you see things blowing, it's just that we have the fan, that's the way it is. Now I'm showing you the lining first just because I've got the lining laid out and it's all ready to rock. In the instructions it will tell you to start with the bag. It doesn't actually matter which you start with first. What you must do is you must complete the bag or the lining and then you join them. You don't kind of flip backwards and forwards. And when you're in process of doing either the lining or the bag, follow it all the way through the way I've said you to do it. There's a reason for this, not just me being egomaniacal. So I've chosen a plaid to do this lining in, partly because I had it in my stash and it looks really nice, And partly because a plaid's really easy. If you want to get nice crisp lines, you just follow the lines, as long as it's a woven plaid. But printed plaids or stripes, no good at all. They're always off grain, so a woven one's really good. So I've roughly laid it out for you. We go, I don't know, Jeremy, can we see all the way out here where my hands are?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so we've got facings, sides, front and back, sides, bottom. We've got little pocket with cell phone pocket here, bigger zippered pocket here. So I'm going to show you how to construct the lining for it. And it's always a good tip to do a lining for a garment or a bag first, because once you do the actual garment or the bag, you're kind of bored and you just want to like wear it. So if you do the lining first, you're ready to go. Also, it helps you to work out any little construction kinks if you're not quite sure where things go. This is a really good way to do it, to do the lining first. And the other reason I wanted to show you the lining first is most of our bags have this kind of pocket formation. They may not have the same structure of the bag and the lining, but most of them have this kind of pocket formation. So it's useful for you to see for any kind of bag that we do. So I'm going to start with the zippered pocket, which goes on one side, doesn't matter which side, front or back. Then I'll go on to the small and the cell phone pocket, again, doesn't matter which side, and then we'll join the whole thing together. So when you're putting a zipper in, it's always a good idea to put some interfacing across the back of where the zipper is going to be. And we usually allow you a 3/4 of an inch or 2 centimetre wide allowance to put a zipper in, just because it's easier than fiddling with a small seam allowance. So for this one, I'm going to join it at the two ends with proper stitching, and in the middle it's going to be basted, because that's what we're going to unpick when we put the zipper in. So there are little notches. I don't think you can see them, but believe me, there are. They're kind of there. We just join it from the end to the notches. I'm going to do that now. It's the most boring thing to watch, so please don't feel you have to sit and look at it, but hey, let's just do it. As I say, 3/4 of an inch seam allowance. Lined up there, making sure, of course, I don't have it on a zigzag, which I often do. I'm getting my trusty, very noisy foot pedal. I know I've had lots of people saying, emailing me and saying, oh, if you want it to not move, put one of these kind of mat things. It doesn't work on my floors, I'm afraid, sadly. Okay. Where's my little notch? There's my little notch. Okay. Now, when I get to this, I'm now going to change my stitch length to the longest, because that's just a basting stitch.
When you get to what, sorry?
I'm sorry, when I get to the notch,
right, okay.
Because the two little bits at the end are going to be sewn, this bit in here is going to be basted, so that's going to be open up afterwards. See, by the end of this, Jem will be making this.
God forbid.
It'll be fine, you'll be alright. Okay, up to the notch, find my trusty notch. There it is. And again, change your stitch length, forward and backwards, and just finish it. Okay. And I've also had emails from a couple of friends of mine saying, why do you use those enormous scissors when you're cutting threads? These are like the extension of my right arm. These are my fabulous scissors. And I've just had them sharpened for the first time in 20 years. That's how good they are. They're Kai scissors, and I love them. So yeah, I should use small scissors, but I don't. Okay, so now we've got this joined here. We're going to press it open, and then we'll pin in the zipper. So my zipper is a little bit longer than I need it to be, because I only need it to be kind of between my fingers there, and it's somewhat longer. So I'm just going to quickly shorten it. So the quickest way to do this, and the easiest way, is just to do like a buttonhole stitch across the bottom, like when you're doing the bottom of the buttonhole. So I'm just going to quickly do that, because it is very quick and easy. So that's it. Very, very simple.
So what have you done there?
I've just done, I don't know if you can zoom in. Can you zoom? Are we zoomable today?
Go on.
Okay, across here, I've just done a little tacking stitch, and what it is recreating is that at the bottom, the stopper. That's just how you shorten a longer zip, and I always buy them a little bit too long, because too long you shorten, too short, it's too short. Okay, so easiest thing to do with this, flip it over, and just decide which end you want it to open. Doesn't really matter which, it's your choice, and just lay it across the centre of the seam like that. So I'll put the zipper in now. All I have to do is open this seam, and it's kind of ready to have the edges pressed under and applied to the back or the front of the bag. So here's our little zippered pocket ready to have the edges pressed under. You can see I've unpicked it, and we've got a zippered opening. So I'm now going to go ahead and press it under, and as I said earlier, one of the reasons I've used plaid for the lining is it's a lot easier to make a nice straight line on it than if it isn't, so we'll do that now. So now I've pressed my edges under, and I've marked on here, I don't know if you can see those little kiss marks on there. No. You can't see them, oh well, trust me, they're there. All you have to do is kind of mark it from the pattern, it'll tell you exactly where it needs to go. So line it up with those. And of course, because I'm cunningly matching up my plaids, I just really match it up with the plaids. Are all okay. And pin it on. And I rather foolishly have put in the magnetic purse snaps in my pin box, so all the pins have stuck to it, which is really not very fabulous at all. So now I've pressed it under, pinned it on, I'm just going to sew it on. It's not very exciting, but I'm going to do it anyway. So that's our first side with the big zippered pocket. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the small pocket with the cell phone pocket attached, and that's kind of an interesting one because it's got pleats and folds in it, but it's really, really simple. Okay, so I've prepared the small pocket, and I'm going to show you what I've done before I do it, because you do it in a few stages. The first thing you do is you hem the top edge. You can do use a hem foot or just turn it under twice and top stitch, doesn't really matter. And then you press around your 3 raw edges. You press those under 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimetre, whichever measurements you're going by. And the next thing you do is you pin down here, along here, and up the stitch line. It's marked on the pattern, it's marked on the pocket piece and on this piece as well. So you pin down there because you're going to do 3 sides of a square on that. You also pin this edge here, this free edge, and again you'll follow the markings of the pattern on that, and you'll have this kind of pleaty bit here. So I'm going to stitch those down and show you them, and I'm going to show you how to do little pleaty formations here that give you your cell phone pocket. So now I've sewn it down, you can see I've sewn through here, around those 3 sides and down here. So now we've got to decide, do we want to pleat the top as well as the bottom? Because we're definitely going to pleat the bottom. Here's how we're going to do it. We're just going to take it over like that.
Do you want me to just focus in a minute while you do that?
Sure, I'll pin, you zoom in. I'll show you this when I've pinned it into position. You can see there's absolutely no point trying to match plaids up on this side because you've got a big pleat in your pocket, so it's not going to work. Can you see that?
Pretty much.
Shall I lift it up like that?
That's a good idea. Let me come right in.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so you've got this nice pocket that will fit your cell phone in. So all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to run my stitching along here to join this one, and that's my pocket done because you want it to be open so you can fit your cell phone in. Okay? So, ta-da! There's your cell phone pocket and your little pocket. So now we've actually done the most complex part of the whole lining thing. I mean, the rest of it is really, really simple. This is a basic box construction. So you have, front, back, sides, bottom. That's it. It's really not hard. So I'm going to go ahead and do the next bits, which are these. You take both your front and back, and of course your sides are kind of attached to it. And you're just going to join them all the way down the side. Both of these, and press it open. So we'll come back and look at that when I've done that. Okay, so we've got our lining loop made, and at the top there are some little pleats there that are marked on the pattern. You need to do these pleats because you need to have the excess room in there like that. So I've just kind of basted them or pinned them, and they'll be fine. I'm going to attach the bottom now, and the bottom is kind of really important that you get this right, but it's not hard, it's just straight seaming. You just got to stop it and start it at the right places. That's all you have to do. So, here is the bottom. You will see that the bottom is a little bit shorter than this edge here. That's fine. You've got to find your notch there and your notch there. All right? And you're going to match those up to here. You sew from notch to notch, and on one of the edges you leave an opening, and you do this on pretty much every single bag you'll ever make with the lining, because that's how you turn everything out at the very end. That's how you get into it and finish it off. If you don't leave a hole, well, you're kind of in trouble. I'll turn it off then. Okay, so I've put the bottom strip in just along the 2 edges here. There's that one, and here's this one with the big old opening. So I really just sealed the 2 edges.
Just hold that up and show that to me again, would you?
The opening?
Yeah.
There it is. If I was to put my hand through,
there you go.
Easy to get my hand through that, because that's what you're going to be turning the whole thing out by. So just a couple of inches each end to seal it up. Now, This is the box bit of the box construction. It's dead easy. Okay, you go out to the sides. Here's your side seam on the sides, and there's your bottom. And just pull it together like that. And you're just going to sew along this edge here, from corner to corner, and you have a box. I'm going to do it, and you're going to see the result. So there's our box. That is it upside down and inside out. I'm going to flip it out the right way out so you can see how it looks. And it is a really nice lining, and everything looks all crispy, pretty and lovely. I haven't clipped my corners yet. I'll go back in and do that shortly, but I just want to quickly show you this. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Okay. So there's your box. There's your box of lining, zippered pocket, other pocket. And now we're going to construct the facing, which is basically 2 strips, and add it to this. And that's your lining and facing completed. And then you go off and make your bag and add the 2 together and you're done. Okay, so I'm preparing the facing now. That shape, there's 2 of them. And with this one, of course, I'm using the fabric from the main body of my bag. And this is a faux leather. Now, for real or faux leathers or real or faux suedes, doesn't really matter. They all behave in the same way. The main thing to bear in mind about them is this: it's a one-time deal. You can't be unpicking and redoing it, because every time a needle goes in to a real or faux suede or leather, it leaves a hole. You cannot get it out. Same goes for pins, which is why we use a lot of glue and kind of clips and stuff when we're putting it together. So you need to be very, very cognizant of that and just take it easy. Just kind of chill out and do it. It'll be fine. The other things to bear in mind is this: when you're dealing with real faux, suede or leather, you want 2 things. One is a leather needle, which I've got here. The size is 90/14, so pretty reasonable, middle of the road leather needle, but they're designed to go through leather much easier. And you want a proper foot. I've got a Teflon foot here, which is just a white standard foot, but it's Teflon, so it doesn't grip onto things. It's great when you're doing suede or faux suede. It's really good, but it's also good for this. And this has got like a kind of a felted backing, a really lightweight felted backing, so it's really not too hard to do. Now all I'm going to do with this, I'm going to seam it down the sides, but of course because this is faux leather, I can't press it, or I can't put a hot iron on the surface. If I do, it will melt, which is really not what I want. So what I have to do is seam it together, finger press it open, and then top stitch the seams backwards. If I don't, they're just going to flap up into a big lump and not be very nice. So I'm going to quickly do that, and you will see what I mean when I do it. So this is of course 3/8 of an inch. And I've loaded up my machine. I've kept the green from the lining on the underneath because I'm going to be top stitching, and I don't care what's underneath, I care what's on top. And I'm using a top stitching thread here just because it'll give me a nicer finish. And for leathers and suedes, a nice top stitching thread is a really good idea. Don't forget, our goal here is to have something that looks very high end. You don't want it to look like you've made it at home yourself. You want it to look like it's just, you know, the barn. So top stitching thread, always good. So you just finger press it by kind of manipulating it with your fingers. I guess that's what it's called, finger pressing.
Can I ask a question?
You can ask a question.
Is it a good idea to order maybe another half yard of leather or suede to sew in for the first time, just in case you do screw up?
You know what? I think if you're, it's a very good question. See, that's why I married you, because you ask very good questions. If this is the first time you're using leather or suede, the first thing I would do is I'd say go for faux leather, because it's a lot less expensive than buying ultra suede, which is very expensive, or real leather or real suede. And yeah, get another half yard or something. I mean, this bag, for instance, takes around about half a yard to make the whole thing, but I actually ordered a yard of it because I knew, because it's mock croc, I want to mash things up, so I added a bit extra, and I still get extra left over in case I make a mistake. So yeah, a little bit extra is always a good idea, never a bad idea. You can always find another use for suede or leather offcuts, that's for sure. So the Teflon foot helps it to just kind of glide over, as opposed to squealing in protest. You can use a rolling foot, which I will show you, assuming I haven't dropped it on the floor somewhere. Yes, I believe I have. Oh, I'll find it shortly and show you, but you can use different feet as well. It's really not a big deal. So that holds the seam allowance down. We'll do the same thing on this side. So we've now got our loop, our facing loop, and I don't know if you can see this, but actually the seam allowance has been stitched back. So if you look like that, they're all nice and flat, so they're not going to flap up inside. So all we have to do now is match these side seams here to the side seams on the lining. Add it all just in one process, one big circle, and you're kind of done with the lining. Sorry, forgot to say, and this is kind of really important, when you're sewing a skin to a fabric, you need to bear in mind it's really, you know, you kind of forget, you think, oh, I'll just pin it together. If you're doing with the skins, don't forget you're going to leave a hole with a pin, so make sure if you're going to pin, that you pin within the seam allowance, not on the seam line, so you're pinning right up against the edge. That you'll get away with for sure, and when you're doing it, like I've got the top stitching thread here and I've got the ordinary thread underneath, I'm going to make sure that my top stitching thread goes on the side with the faux leather, just because it'll kind of behave better and look nicer. That's it. So there's our pretty much completed facing and lining assembly. You can see that it just goes around in a loop like this. I've actually finger pressed all the seams this way towards the top and done some top stitching along here just to hold it down, because like I said before, if you try and press this, you're going to get a real big mess. You can press it on the reverse, and truthfully you can press it on this as long as you have fabric in between it, like a towel or something, but I just avoid it as much as you can and do as much stitching as you can. So there's your lining, ready to go into your bag. So I'm going off now to have a delicious cup of tea, because of course I'm English and we live on tea, and then we're going to put the bag together in the next clip.